Do you remember a social studies teacher at Thicket who used to have her funk class?
Thank you all for coming. I'm really excited to have you here. Um, some of you are familiar with the Facebook page. That's how this all got started. I'm a writer, and in a writer's group a few years ago, we were writing poems. And I wrote a poem called Where I'm From, and it just got me thinking about how I grew up and where I grew up, the place and the time in this area. And I'm in touch with a lot of people my age, and Sharon's one of my best friends all growing up, and we're still very close when I come to town. And a lot of us talk all the time about what a special place this was, a special place and time it was to grow up in. And maybe everybody thinks that, but I don't know. We just really thought it was special. And so I had talked for some time about putting a Facebook group together and trying to connect people. And then one day last summer when I was here, I had been talking about it often enough that Sharon said to me, "Are you ever going to do that or what?" And I sat down that night and I created the Facebook group and invited 10 or 15 people that I knew, and they invited 10 or 15 people that they knew, and literally within 2 weeks we had about 150 people on this Facebook group.
And
it was.
Can you tell what it's called?
Oh, so as part of the writing group, I just conceptualized, and I always thought of it this way. I always thought of our neighborhood as this 1 square mile, because my world as a child was really bounded by Broadway, Speedway, Wilmot, Kolb. I mean, the school was there, the pools were there. I mean, everything, almost everything was right there in our world, and we could sort of wander wherever we wanted to in that. And when you look at it on a map, living in Ohio now, the streets aren't laid out like that. It's kind of, when I tell people, well, where I grew up, the streets are 1 mile apart and it was this big block, they're like, really? They just think that's really strange. So I thought it was kind of catchy. And as soon as I wrote that on the Facebook page, it kind of took off too, that people liked sort of referring to it that way. So that encompassed Kingston Knolls and El Dorado Hills and Harold Bell Ride and Green Hills and San Rafael, which brings in some people that we didn't really know.
You didn't really know Harold Bell Ride and San Rafael?
No. And some of those people we knew in high school, but they would say, "Oh yeah, well, Scott Sanders." It's like I didn't even know he lived in our neighborhood because it wasn't really connected.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. If they didn't go to our swimming pool, I didn't really know.
Or the elementary school.
Or the school. And at the school, if they weren't in my grade, I really didn't know them.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So anyway, so we started the group, and then Kendall became a really active member, and I think he got Jean involved, and that was really fun sort of twist on things, because almost everybody on the Facebook group was sort of my age plus or minus 5 years, because that's kind of how I set it up. So we thought it would be really fun to get some of the parents involved, and that's what we wanted to do on the Facebook page, and we've had a little bit of that, but many of you guys aren't on Facebook or aren't really active on Facebook. Would like to have more people.
Well, I need to get active, so it's good.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so we'll give you some, and we'll help you figure out how to find it and everything after this.
You had to give someone a lesson?
Well, Mom got a tutorial.
Yeah. And then you have to use it. I mean, then you have to sort of practice it. But it's pretty fun, and it's been a really fun way to reconnect with people and to get sort of memories going. And I'm finding all kinds of people jogging my memory or telling about things that I think, and Sharon and I talked about this the other night, it's like, where was I? Because there's some of that stuff that I really I was in my room reading a book for a lot of my childhood, I think, so I missed a lot of that, but that's really fun to know what was going on in the neighborhood at that time. So, I asked on the Facebook page a little while ago what questions the people on the page would like to know from the parents. And so we're going to start with you guys, and then we'll try to get the word out to more parents as we go and get your perspective on how things.
Okay, our oldest daughter was interested, but she couldn't come today.
Okay.
And she wanted to know the website and everything.
Okay, and I'll write that down for you before.
Well, is that on this card?
No, no, that's just
Okay.
that's my personal information. But if she searches 1 square mile in Tucson on Facebook, it should come up.
It's called 1 square mile?
1 square mile
In
in
That's
Tucson.
what I
Tucson.
didn't have. I didn't have the words. I was trying to find it on Google today.
Oh yeah, probably. I don't think it would probably come up on Google because it's a closed.
I didn't have square, the word square
Oh,
in
yeah.
there.
Yeah. So have her go on to the Facebook page and Google 1 square mile in Tucson.
And that's us.
And that's us.
And then how do you
then
join
she asks. There'll be a little button that says "Ask to join group."
She'll know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I can approve her.
And anyone who asks.
Has a degree in computers.
Except for these weird Chinese spammers that we get.
Okay.
I mean, I can tell when they ask to join the group. I can tell, if they have friends who are already in the group. I can tell if they're one of us,
Yeah.
if they belong or not. So I wanted to go just quickly around the parents. Do we call them the parents? My mom didn't like me calling them the old people.
Yeah.
Yes, no, I did not.
The elders. Is the elders okay?
Elders.
The elders. And just quickly, I know you've all been talking, but just for my record, tell me just your name, your address, where you lived in 1 square mile or still live, when you moved here, a little bit about that, who your kids were, what your pool affiliation was, and just as a little intro.
And we were the original owner on the Phillips. Yeah. Picked the lot and the house and all that.
Yeah, we knew nothing about buying houses. We went in to close on the sale. It was a VA loan, and we knew you didn't need any money to buy a house. Well, we didn't have any money. We said, well, it's going to cost you $1,000 something, for your insurance and taxes and all. $1,000.
Do you remember how much the house cost?
Yeah, $15,400.
Yeah.
I was 17.5.
I don't
You
know what
bought a
ours
year
was.
later.
Yeah, we did, 1 year old.
Prices had gone up, I guess.
Yeah.
And I called my father-in-law, who lived in Chicago and had built 5 houses of his own. And I said, well, I don't know, Dad, it's awfully big. It's got 3 bedrooms, and it's just the 2 of us.
No kids.
Uh-oh.
And he said, well, how much do you figure your monthly payments will be? I said, $125 a month, I think. He said, stretch as much as you can, pay 13 months a year, and you'll pay it off in half the time. Very smart man.
Yeah.
Really?
Good advice.
We didn't know that.
I learned to swim at Kingston. Yeah. I did not know how to swim until I was 11. And I was shunned by all the swimmers. They were not nice to me at
Kingston Girls
Kingston
swimmers
Girls
weren't nice.
Pool. But they were very nice to me at Green Hills Pool. Even
Okay.
though I wasn't a good swimmer.
Jean, you were the original owner of this house, is that right?
And that's right. We moved here in July 1959. We picked out the lot because of the view. The backyard was smaller than some of them, but we gave that up. We raised 5 children here, 4 of them at Woodworth. And when we first moved out here, Green Hills Pool was built, so we joined there for a year. And then Kingston Roads was built, and I was the first secretary on the board. Anybody remember Frank Lambert? He was
Well, Lambert's lived in the house we
That's
lived in.
right.
Yeah.
And yes, and he was the president. If you remember, we were very social at our pool. We had parties and Friday night movies and swim teams, swim lessons. So our kids were very active in the pool.
That's good. I have questions about a lot of that stuff, so that's good for now. So, Mom, do you remember when we moved into the 1 square mile?
1970. 71.
I don't know. No.
Oh, anyway, we moved here, and we're looking for a house for our family. Bob was working at the University of Arizona, coming to work there. So we ended up over in, what's that called?
Cloud Ridge.
Cloud Ridge. And we rented a little house in Cloud Ridge. Or did we buy it? I think we bought it, didn't we?
I think
Yeah.
you did
I
own
think
it.
so.
We bought that little house and it wasn't the right house.
They were little, weren't
Yeah, they were, and they had no windows in the front. I mean, the window was on the side and it was like, ooh, I didn't like that house at all. And so we lived there, I think, for a year and a half.
Plus, we had to cross Colt to go to
Well,
school.
the kids had to cross Colt to go to school, which was not good at all. So then we started looking in Elkwater Hills.
No,
Peaks
no.
and Knolls, I mean. And we found, and they were just building this house.
No,
No?
she's thinking of the other house.
I know.
I remember we used to drive by as little kids, and you used to say, "That's my dream house.
On the
That's
corner.
my dream house."
Well,
And then it went up for sale, and we bought your dream
And
house.
we bought the house and we lived there for 20 years. I think.
Yeah, it's-
And then we,
And we belonged to Kingston Old Pool.
yeah, we belonged to the pool and the kids went swimming every day and we went to every swim meet and it was really fun. We had helped with the parties and all of the things that they did for the kids. They did a lot of things for the kids.
they? Well, after you learn to swim, you're on.
My husband had joined the pool. He moved here first. We were Air Force. And he joined the pool. And we got here in a late evening. The next morning, he opened the door and he said to we have 5 children, "There's the pool." And then I don't think I saw them at all the rest of the summer. And it was the best. They met friends. Everything.
On the Facebook page, there's a lot of discussion of what sounds like kids basically running wild in the neighborhood. Not wild, but just running loose.
Free.
Running free. That's a better word for it. Running free in the neighborhood, and every now and then somebody will say, "Wonder what our parents thought we were doing." What did our parents think we were doing?
Carnal knowledge. and she did the whole thing to the kids, and they'd all go home and tell their parents that that's what they learned in social studies.